The Alpha King wasn't supposed to walk in on his enemy's bride shedding her wedding gown, but as his storm-gray eyes settled over her, he was unable to look away. The attraction shouldn't exist. Their people had been warring for 3 centuries, yet somehow his wolf recognized her dragon, forming an impossible bond. And in the shadows, someone who knew them both was already sharpening the knife. The wedding dress felt like a noose. Georgina stood in the tower chamber, her fingers working frantically at the buttons running down her spine. Each one that came loose felt like a small rebellion against the cage Edmund had built around her. The heavy silk, ivory and crimson, stitched with his family crest, pooled at her feet as she stepped free of it. She had maybe an hour before someone discovered the rope she'd made from bed linens, before Edmund realized his prize was slipping through his fingers. Georgina reached for the clothes she'd hidden inside the wardrobe: dark trousers, a tunic the color of ash, boots made for running. Her hands trembled as she pulled the tunic over her top, fumbling with the laces. "Breathe," she told herself. "You've survived 3 months as his captive. You can survive this." 3 months of locked doors and windowless rooms, and Edmund's cold smile as he told her about the weapon he'd force her to find once they were wed. Her dragon bond gave her perfect recall, the ability to memorize maps and texts with a single glance. He planned to use her like a hunting hound. The door crashed open. Georgina spun, clutching her half-lace tunic, her heart slamming against her ribs so hard she thought it might crack bone. A man filled the doorway, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in black leather armor still spattered with blood. His hair was dark as a raven's wing, falling just past his collar, and his eyes, gods have mercy, his eyes. Storm gray shot through with silver, wolf eyes, alpha eyes. They locked on her with an intensity that made heat flash across her skin, despite the cool night air pouring through the window she'd pried open. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Georgina's mind raced. He didn't look like one of Edmund's men. The armor was wrong. A mercenary? An assassin? Her stomach dropped. If he raised the alarm, everything was finished. "You're not supposed to be here," she managed, surprised her voice didn't shake. The stranger's gaze swept over her, taking in her state of undress, the wedding gown abandoned on the floor, the rope coiled by the window. When his eyes returned to hers, something flickered in their depths. "Neither are you." His voice was low, rough as gravel, a wolf's growl beneath the words. "Unless brides typically escape through windows on their wedding night." "It's not." She stopped. Why was she explaining herself to an intruder? "Who are you?" He stepped into the room, and she noticed the sword at his hip. Panic seized her spine. Someone who just conquered this fortress. He tilted his head, studying her with unsettling focus. "Which makes you either a prisoner worth rescuing or an enemy worth questioning." Conquered. So the distant sounds she'd attributed to the sedative she'd slipped the guards, crashes, shouts, the clash of steel, hadn't been her imagination. "Where's Edmund?" His name tasted bitter on her tongue. "Currently in my dungeons." Something dark and satisfied crossed his features. "He won't hurt anyone else." Relief flooded through her so intensely her knees almost buckled before suspicion coiled around her heart. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm Grant Ashland." He said it simply. The Alpha King, ruler of the Northern Holds, was the wolf shifter her people had been taught to fear since childhood, the same man whose family had warred with dragon-bonded bloodlines for 3 centuries. Georgina's hand moved instinctively toward the small of her back, where she'd hidden a knife beneath her tunic. His eyes tracked the movement. "I'm not here to hurt you." Grant's voice gentled slightly. "But I need to know, are you his bride or his captive? Does it matter?" She lifted her chin. You've already won. Do with me what you will. Something flashed across his face. Anger, she thought, though not directed at her. It matters a great deal, he said quietly. The sincerity in his tone caught her off guard. She'd expected cruelty from a wolf king, expected the same casual dominance Edmund had wielded like a weapon. I'm a captive, she admitted, for 3 months, since he killed my brother and threatened to slaughter the rest of my family if I didn't agree to wed him. Grant went very still. Your brother. Was it the skirmish at Greywater Ford? You know about it? Edmund claimed it was a fair fight, that your brother attacked first. His jaw tightened. I'm guessing that was a lie. My brother was carrying a peace proposal. The words scraped her throat raw. Edmund cut him down, before he could deliver it, sent his body back in pieces. The rage that transformed Grant's features loosened something in her chest. This man understood. This man cared that justice had been perverted. I'm sorry. Edmund will answer for that. I promise you. Why? Georgina couldn't stop the question. Why do you care what happens to dragon-bonded nobility? Because Edmund has been poisoning my border villages, killing children, blaming it on your people to start a war. Grant's hands flexed at his sides. I came here to end him before he succeeded. Finding you, though, is unexpected. Georgina's mind spun. Edmund poisoning villages? She'd seen his war room, the maps covered in notations, but she'd assumed they were defensive positions. Unless... Horror washed over her. The supply routes, the ones marked in red ink. Grant's attention sharpened. You've seen his war room? Suddenly, she realized her grave mistake. She'd just revealed she had intelligence, knowledge of Edmund's plans, knowledge that made her valuable to whoever held her. She stepped back, but there was nowhere to go. The window behind her led to a 3-story drop. The rope was ready, but Grant would no doubt catch her. Wolf shifters were annoyingly fast, and he stood between her and the door. She was trapped. Grant seemed to sense her panic. He raised both hands slowly, palms out. I'm not going to hurt you, but I need to know what you saw. Edmund's alliance network, his supply chains. If you can tell me anything. Why would I help you? The question came out sharper than intended. You're my people's enemy. Because right now, I'm the only thing standing between you and Edmund's allies. Grant's voice was steady, reasonable. They'll come for you. You have information they can't let fall into enemy hands. You're not safe, even with Edmund imprisoned. The truth of it settled over her like frost. She'd been so focused on escaping Edmund, she hadn't thought past tonight. Hadn't considered that his network of allies would view her as a loose end to eliminate. So, I trade one captor for another? Bitterness leaked into her voice. No. Grant took a step closer, then stopped when she tensed. You accept my protection until Edmund's allies are neutralized. Then you're free to go wherever you wish. Georgina wanted to believe she could slip out the window now, disappear into the night, find safety on her own. But the perfect recall of her dragon bond had already catalogued everything she'd witnessed in Edmund's war room. The troop movements, the alliance maps, the formula for the poison Edmund had developed, the one she'd memorized from the papers on his desk, thinking she might someday use it as evidence against him. She knew too much. I need your word, she said finally, that you won't hurt me, that you won't use me the way Edmund planned to. Grant met her eyes, and the intensity there stole her breath. You have it. On my honor as Alpha, you're under my protection. No one will harm you while you're in my care. The words should have meant little to her. He was a wolf king, her enemy by blood and history, but something in her recognized the truth in them, recognized him, though that made no sense. All right. The agreement felt like stepping off a cliff. I'll tell you what I know. Grant's shoulders relaxed. Thank you. Then he did something that surprised her. He pulled off his outer cloak, heavy wool lined with fur, and held it out. You're shivering. Take this. Georgina hesitated, then accepted the cloak. The moment it settled around her shoulders, his scent enveloped her. Pine and winter air and something else that made her dragon stir in recognition. Careful, her dragon whispered in the back of her mind. This one is dangerous, even if he smells good. Grant turned toward the door. Come. My war room is more comfortable than this tower. We can talk there. Grant's war room occupied the fortress's central tower. Grant's men had cleared the space efficiently, removing Edmund's personal effects and replacing them with maps of the surrounding territories. Georgina stood at the threshold, suddenly aware that she was walking into the heart of enemy power, wearing nothing but borrowed clothes and a wolf king's cloak. Come in. Grant gestured to a chair near the fire. You're safe here. She moved inside, hyper-aware of the guards flanking the door. Wolf shifters, both of them, their eyes tracking her with predatory focus. Grant dismissed them with a gesture. They obeyed without question, though one shot Georgina a look that clearly said, We're right outside if you try anything. Once alone, Grant moved to a side table and poured something from a decanter. Wine? You look like you could use it. I don't drink with enemies. Then you're lucky I'm not your enemy. He brought the cup anyway, setting it within her reach. Georgina picked up the cup, studying the amber liquid. Testing for poison was impossible, without tasting it, and if Grant wanted her dead, there were easier methods than wine. So she drank. The alcohol burned pleasantly down her throat, warming her from within. Better? Grant asked. Marginally. She set the cup aside. You said you needed information. I do. He pulled out a map, spreading it across the table. Edmund's been moving supplies along these routes. My scouts confirmed shipments, but we couldn't determine what he was transporting. If you saw his records. Poison components, she replied immediately. Her dragon bond brought the memory into sharp focus. Edmund's neat handwriting, the chemical formulas, the distribution schedule. He's been manufacturing it in a facility somewhere north of here. 3 shipments per month to various contacts. Grant's expression darkened. You're certain? I have perfect recall. It's part of my dragon bond. She hesitated. I can draw you the formula if you want. Maybe your healers can develop an antidote. Something shifted in Grant's eyes. Respect, maybe. That would save many lives. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Georgina straightened. Edmund wasn't working alone. He has allies, powerful ones. I saw correspondence from at least 6 noble houses pledging support. They're planning something bigger than border raids. How much bigger? She met his gaze. They want to trigger a full-scale war between wolf shifters and dragon bonded. Edmund was supposed to be the spark. Once he married me, he planned to use my abilities to locate ancient weapons rumored to be hidden in the Ashwood Mountains. Weapons powerful enough to tip the balance. Grant went very still. The Ashwood cache. I thought that was a legend. Edmund believed it was real, and he thought I could find it. Georgina's hands tightened in the fabric of Grant's cloak. That's why he wanted me. Not for alliance or love, just for what I could give him. I'm sorry, Georgina. Grant's voice was rough. No one should be used that way. The sympathy in his tone made her throat tighten. Why do you care? I'm just some dragon-bonded woman, your enemy's bride. You're a person who's been hurt. Grant moved closer, then seemed to catch himself. And you're not my enemy. You never were. The words hung between them. Her dragon stirred again, more insistent this time. He's different. This one sees you. I should go, Georgina said abruptly. You have what you need. Stay. The word came out too quickly. Grant cleared his throat. I mean, there are things we should discuss. Your safety, for one. And I'd like to hear more about Edmund's allies. It's late. Please. The single word stopped her. Not the command of an alpha king, but the quiet request of a man who looked lonely yet hopeful in front of her. Against her better judgment, Georgina sat back down. All right, she said softly. Ask your questions. Grant pulled up a chair across from her, close enough that she could see the silver flecks in his gray eyes. Tell me about the allies, he said. Everything you remember. So she did. Georgina spoke until her voice grew hoarse, describing the letters she'd glimpsed in Edmund's study, the coded messages, the names of noble houses who'd pledged support to Edmund's cause. Grant listened with complete focus, occasionally asking clarifying questions. He didn't interrupt or dismiss her observations, didn't treat her like a foolish woman who couldn't understand military strategy. He treated her like an equal. You have a sharp mind, Grant said when she finished. You connected patterns in Edmund's correspondence that my own intelligence network missed. I had nothing else to do but observe. Georgina shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. Edmund thought I was too frightened to pay attention. He underestimated you. Grant's gaze stroked over her face. I won't make that mistake. Heat flared suddenly in Georgina's cheeks. She looked away, studying the maps on the table. What happens now? To me, I mean. That's your choice. Grant leaned back. But I'd like to make a proposal. Suspicion slithered over her heart. What kind of proposal? Stay here, at least until we've neutralized Edmund's allies. He held up a hand when she started to protest. Not as a prisoner, as a guest, an advisor, if you're willing. Your knowledge of Edmund's network could save a lot of lives. An advisor. She felt the word on her mouth, testing it. And after, when the threat is dealt with, then you're free to leave. I'll provide an escort to wherever you wish to go, your family's lands if you want, or somewhere else entirely. It was a generous offer. Too generous. Georgina searched his face. What do you gain from this? Grant's gaze held hers for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled, a genuine one that lit up his face, making him look almost boyish. But when his lips curved wider, she caught the glint of teeth, wolf's canines that promised he was every bit as dangerous as he was beautiful. Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. He leaned back in his chair, and Georgina found herself tracking the movement, the way candlelight played across his features, the breadth of his shoulders. But when I saw you in that tower, half-dressed and planning to escape, you thought I was insane, Georgina supplied. I thought you were fearless. His voice dropped lower. My wolf is curious about you, protective even, which is strange because he usually wants to rip strangers apart. My dragon won't stop talking about you, Georgina blurted out before she could stop herself. Grant's eyes flashed silver, his wolf rising to the surface. Yeah? What's she saying? That you're dangerous, that I shouldn't trust pretty men who kick down doors. Georgina's lips curved despite herself. Grant's smile turned slow and wicked. Pretty? Heat flooded Georgina's cheeks. That's not what I meant. No, I like it. He leaned forward, eyes glinting with amusement. Here I was trying to be intimidating, and you think I'm pretty. You're also a wolf king who kills people, Georgina said defensively. That was the main point. But also pretty. His grin widened. Your dragon has good taste. My dragon is making terrible decisions. What do you think? The playfulness faded from his voice, replaced by something more serious. I think, she said slowly, that you're either the best liar I've ever met, or you're genuinely trying to help me, and I'm not sure which is more terrifying. Grant's lips curved again. Can I tell you a secret? Go on. You terrify me too. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I've never felt anything like this. This pull. I want to understand this better, but I need you to know I won't push. You've had enough people trying to control you. The consideration in his voice made her throat tight. What if I want to figure it out too? Then we take it slow. His lips curved slightly. Even if my wolf is being extremely impatient about it. Grant held out his hand, palm up. An invitation. Georgina looked at his hand, scarred and strong and steady. Then she placed her palm against his. The moment their skin connected, heat raced through her, like touching a spark of lightning. Grant sucked in a sharp breath. Then his thumb began tracing slow patterns across her knuckles, circles, figure eights, the curve of each finger. Every touch sent warmth racing up her arm. Grant shifted closer, not crowding her, but near enough that she had to tilt her head back to see his face. His other hand came up, fingertips barely grazing her jaw, and Georgina's breath caught. His gaze dropped to her mouth. For a heartbeat, the air between them went taut as a bowstring. Georgina felt her lips part, felt her body sway toward his. Grant's hand fell away. He stepped back, jaw tight. You should rest, before I forget how to be a gentleman. He led her through the fortress's winding corridors in silence. The only sounds were their footsteps and the crackle of torches. But Georgina was hyper-aware of him beside her, the heat radiating from his body, the way his hand hovered near the small of her back without quite touching. Guards straightened as they passed, their eyes tracking her with suspicion and curiosity. The enemy's bride, the dragon-bonded woman in their alpha's care. The guest chambers were beautiful, far more luxurious than the tower room Edmund had kept her in. A massive bed piled with furs and pillows, a fire crackling in the hearth, windows overlooking the mountains, no bars or locks. Grant paused in the doorway, close enough that his shoulder nearly brushed hers. Sleep well, he said quietly. I'll have breakfast sent up in the morning. Grant? She turned to face him and found him closer than she expected. Why did you really conquer this fortress? The truth. He was quiet for a long moment. Edmund killed people I was sworn to protect. Children who never hurt anyone. I couldn't let that stand. His jaw tightened, and I couldn't let him start a war that would kill thousands more. You're a good king, Georgina said softly. Something dark flickered across Grant's face. Don't make me a hero, Georgina. You don't know the things I've done. Before she could respond, he stepped back into the hallway. The door clicked shut between them. Georgina stood alone in the beautiful chamber, Grant's cloak still wrapped around her shoulders, her palm still tingling where he'd touched her. He's dangerous, her dragon whispered in the back of her mind. But perhaps the good kind of dangerous. Georgina wasn't sure such a thing existed, but as she climbed into the impossibly soft bed, surrounded by his lingering scent, she found herself hoping desperately that it did. Georgina woke to sunlight streaming and the sound of birds singing. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then memory crashed back. The escape attempt, Grant's arrival, the impossible pull between them. She sat up, pushing hair out of her face. Someone had brought clothes while she slept, a simple dress in deep blue and soft leather boots. A tray of food sat on the table by the fire. Bread, cheese, fruit, and tea that was still steaming. Georgina dressed quickly, then attacked the food with an appetite she hadn't felt in months. Edmund had fed her, but meagerly. This breakfast was a feast by comparison. She was finishing the last of the tea when someone knocked. "Come in," she called, expecting a servant. Grant entered instead. He'd changed from his battle armor into simple clothes, dark trousers and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His hair was damp, like he'd recently bathed, but it was his face that caught her attention. He looked tired. Deep shadows under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept. "Good morning," he said. "Morning. Thank you for the breakfast." Georgina gestured to the empty tray. "You're welcome." Grant moved into the room, then seemed uncertain where to go. "I wanted to check on you, make sure you were settling in." "I'm much better, but you look exhausted." "Long night." He rubbed the back of his neck, and Georgina saw him wince slightly at the movement. "Are you hurt?" "Old injury. Acts up sometimes." Grant dropped his hand. "Nothing to worry about." But Georgina had seen that particular tension before. The way Edmund's men had moved after long campaigns, joints stiff and aching. The way her brother used to rub his sword arm after sparring. This was chronic pain, something Grant lived with constantly. Her dragon stirred with interest. Old wounds. Someone hurt him badly. You can help him. But if he turns out to be another Edmund, I'm burning his eyebrows off. "Let me see," Georgina said, moving closer before she could think better of it. Grant stepped back. "It's nothing." "Let me see," she repeated, gentler this time. "Please." He hesitated, then slowly pulled up his left sleeve. Georgina's breath caught. Silvery scars crisscrossed Grant's forearm, the tissue puckered and uneven. They looked old, but poorly healed, like whoever had tended them hadn't known what they were doing. "What caused this?" she asked quietly. "Silver poisoning. Years ago." Grant's voice was carefully neutral. "It's mostly healed, but sometimes the nerves—" He didn't finish, but Georgina understood. Silver was toxic to wolf shifters, slow-acting but devastating. These scars meant someone had tried to kill him. Without thinking, Georgina placed her palm over the worst of the scars. Grant inhaled sharply. "What are you—" She closed her eyes, reaching for her dragon bond. Heat flowed from her palm, not burning, but warm and golden. Dragon fire, carefully controlled. It sank into Grant's skin, seeking out the damaged nerves, the lingering poison that still caused him pain. Grant made a sound low in his throat. "Georgina? Does it hurt?" she asked without opening her eyes. "No. It feels—" He trailed off. "Good. Really good." She smiled, increasing the warmth fractionally. Her dragon purred in satisfaction, pleased to be healing someone worthy. Gradually, Georgina felt the tension in Grant's arm ease. The damaged tissue responded to her heat, relaxing for the first time in years. When she finally pulled back, Grant was staring at her with wonder. "What did you do?" "Dragon bonded can heal with fire, in small ways." Georgina flexed her fingers, feeling the residual warmth. "I can't fix the scars, but I can ease the pain, help the nerves remember how to work properly." Grant rolled his fingers, then his wrist, then his whole arm, testing, disbelieving. 7 years, he said hoarsely. I'd forgotten what it felt like without the pain. "It might come back," she warned. I'd need to do this regularly to make it permanent. Then do it regularly, please. Grant caught her hand, his thumb tracing over her knuckles. This is the first time I've been able to move my arm without pain since... He stopped abruptly, but Georgina heard what he didn't say. Who did this to you? She asked quietly. Grant's expression shuddered. It doesn't matter. They're dead now. But something in his tone suggested the story was more complicated than that. Georgina filed it away for later. I'm glad I could help. You did more than help. Grant's thumb traced across her knuckles. Slow, deliberate. No one's ever... He didn't finish, but his grip tightened. Georgina's breath caught. They were standing too close again, close enough that she could see the exact moment his gaze dropped to her mouth. I should go. But he didn't move. His hand stayed wrapped around hers, warm and solid, like he couldn't quite make himself let go. So soon? Something heated flared in his eyes. For a heartbeat, she thought he might kiss her, thought she might finally know what his mouth tasted like. Instead, Grant lifted her hand slowly and pressed his lips to her knuckles. The kiss was brief, almost chaste. But his eyes held hers the entire time, and there was nothing innocent about the way he looked at her. Join me in the war room later, he said against her skin. I need your help with Edmund's correspondence. All right, Georgina managed. Grant released her hand, but his fingers trailed across her palm as he pulled away. One last deliberate touch. When you healed him, her dragon said slowly, his wolf woke up. What do you mean? It looked at me, recognized me. There was wonder in her dragon's voice laced with fading wariness. Wolf and dragon haven't called to each other in centuries, not since before the war. Georgina's pulse quickened. That can't be right. I know what I felt. Her dragon's certainty was unshakable. His wolf saw us, and it wants us, badly. The words should have frightened her. Instead, they sent heat curling through her chest, dangerous yet thrilling. The afternoon found Georgina in Grant's war room, surrounded by papers salvaged from Edmund's study. Her dragon bond made sorting through them efficient. She could scan a document once and recall every detail perfectly. Grant worked across from her, occasionally asking questions about specific correspondence. They fell into an easy rhythm, but Georgina was hyper-aware of every time their hands brushed reaching for the same paper. Every time Grant's gaze lingered on her face. Every time the air between them grew heavy with unspoken things. This one, she said finally, holding up a letter. It's from someone called the Serpent. Coded, but I think I can break it. Grant moved to stand behind her, reading over her shoulder. What does it say? He asked, his breath stirring her hair. Georgina forced herself to focus. Something about the package arriving as scheduled, and a reference to the third moon, which was, she calculated quickly, 3 nights ago. The night I attacked the fortress. Grant's voice was grim. They knew I was coming? Or they planned to use the confusion. Georgina traced the coded words. Edmund was supposed to receive something important enough to warrant coded correspondence. We searched his chambers, found nothing unusual. Then it's hidden somewhere else. Georgina stood, the pieces clicking together. Edmund had a private study, separate from his official office. I only saw it once when he thought I was too drugged to remember. Grant's attention sharpened. Can you find it again? I think so. She tapped her temple. I remember the route. 4 turns past the main hall, down a spiral staircase, through a wine cellar. Show me. They moved through the fortress together, Georgina leading while Grant followed. His guards trailed at a distance. The route she remembered led them deep into the fortress's lower levels, places that hadn't seen sunlight in centuries. The air grew colder, damper. Their footsteps echoed off stone walls. "Here," Georgina said finally, stopping before an unremarkable wooden door. "This is it." Grant tried the handle. Locked. "Step back," he said quietly. Grant's eyes flashed silver, his wolf rising to the surface, and then he simply kicked the door off its hinges. The room beyond was small and cramped, dominated by a desk covered in papers. But it was what sat on the desk that made Georgina's blood run cold. A map. Not of troop movements or supply routes, but a map of her family's estate, with every entrance marked, every guard rotation noted, every vulnerability highlighted. "He was planning to attack my family," she whispered, "even after forcing me to agree to the marriage." Grant moved to the desk, his expression thunderous. "He never intended to keep his word. He wanted you and your family's lands. My sister." Cold dread settled in Georgina's stomach. "She's still there. Grant, if Edmund's allies—" "I'll send men immediately." Grant was already moving. "Fast riders. They'll reach your family's estate by tomorrow morning." "That might not be fast enough. Then I'll go myself." Grant caught her shoulders gently. "Why would you do that?" "Because they're your family." Grant's thumbs traced soothing circles on her shoulders. "Because you're terrified for them. Because—" He stopped, something raw flickering over his face. "I care what happens to you. More than I should." The rawness in his voice made her chest ache. She should step back. Instead, she found herself moving closer. "This is a bad idea," she said. "I agree." His voice dropped lower. "Tell me to let go." "But I don't want you to let go." Grant made a rough sound. His hands slid up to cup her face, tilting it toward his. "I can't think straight when you're near me. Can't remember why this is supposed to be impossible. Because you're a wolf king. Because I'm dragon bonded. Because our people have been killing each other for 300 years. And yet here we are." His thumb traced her lower lip, and her breath hitched. "My wolf won't shut up about you. Keeps telling me, 'You're mine.' My dragon says the same thing." The confession slipped out. "She's very insistent. It's quite annoying." "Is it?" His forehead dropped to hers, and suddenly they were sharing air. "Because right now, I'm thinking your dragon might be right." Georgina's pulse thundered in her ears. "Grant, tell me you don't feel this." His hands trembled slightly against her face. "Tell me I'm imagining it, and I'll walk away right now." She couldn't. God's help her. She couldn't lie to him. "I feel it," she whispered. They stood like that for a heartbeat, breathing the same air, balanced on the edge of something momentous. Then Grant's mouth found hers, and the world ignited. The kiss started gentle, tentative, like they were both afraid the other might vanish. But when Georgina's hands fisted in Grant's shirt, pulling him closer, his control shattered. He kissed her like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. His hands tangled in her hair, tilting her head back to deepen. The kiss. Georgina made a sound low in her throat. Need and want and desperation tangled together. Her dragon roared approval, recognizing the wolf that kissed her so thoroughly. Heat built between them. Dragon fire meeting wolf hunger. It should have been destructive, two opposing forces colliding. Instead, it felt immaculate. Grant pulled back first. "Georgina, don't apologize," she said quickly. "Please don't ruin this by apologizing." "I wasn't going to apologize." His thumb traced her swollen lower lip. "I was going to ask if I could do that again." Relief and desire flooded through her. "Yes, Definitely yes. The second kiss was slower, deeper. Grant explored her mouth like he had all the time in the world, like learning the taste of her was the most important thing he'd ever do. Georgina's hands roamed across his shoulders, his chest, mapping the muscle beneath his shirt. Grant groaned, pressing her back against the desk. "We should stop," he murmured against her throat. "This isn't... We're in Edmund's study. I don't care." Georgina pulled him back to her mouth. "I've spent 3 months locked in rooms I hated, scared and alone. Right now, I want to feel something good. I want to feel you." Grant's restraint snapped. He lifted her onto the desk, stepping between her thighs. His mouth found hers again, claiming and possessive. They kissed until Georgina's head spun, until her body sang with need, until the rest of the world fell away, and there was only this, Grant's hands on her waist, his mouth on her skin, the way he said her name like a prayer. Finally, Grant pulled back. "We need to stop," he said raggedly. "Before I can't." "What if I don't want to stop?" "Georgina." Her name sounded tortured. "You're under my protection. I won't take advantage." "You're not." She cupped his face, making him meet her eyes. "I want this. But if you don't..." "I do. Very much." Grant's laugh was strained. "But not like this. Not in Edmund's study with guards outside. You deserve better than that." The consideration in his voice made her take pause. "Then when?" "When we've figured out what this is between us." Grant pressed a kiss to her forehead. "I'm not going anywhere. We have time." Georgina wanted to argue that time wasn't guaranteed, that Edmund's allies could attack at any moment, that they should seize what happiness they could while they had the chance. But she could see the determination in Grant's expression. He wanted to do this right. It was infuriating and endearing in equal measure. "Okay," she conceded, "but I'm holding you to that promise." "Good." Grant helped her off the desk, his hands lingering on her waist. "Now let's get these documents back to the war room, and then I'm sending riders to your family's estate." "Well," her dragon said, sounding too smug, "he kisses very well for a wolf. Those teeth have potential. Get your mind out of the gutters." "I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind if he did that again soon." Grant sent his fastest riders to Georgina's family estate with a letter explaining the situation and offering protection. They returned with her father and younger sister in tow, along with news that Edmund's allies had indeed been plotting an attack. Grant's intervention had saved their lives. Georgina's father was a diminished man, gray-haired and haunted-eyed. When he saw her, his face crumpled. "Georgina!" Her name broke on a sob. He reached for her hands, clutching them like a lifeline. "I'm so sorry." She stood frozen. This man had raised her, taught her to ride, called her his little flame, but this man had also handed her to a monster to save himself. "I thought I was protecting the family," he choked out. "Thought if I just gave Edmund what he wanted." "He killed your son." Her words came out cold. "And you still gave him your daughter." Her father flinched like she'd struck him. I know, and We're safe now." Georgina pulled her hands free, the gesture gentle but final. "That's what matters." She walked away before he could see her cry. Later, alone in Grant's war room, cold fury churned in her chest. "He gave me to Edmund so easily," she told Grant. "I know he was scared, but you feel betrayed." Grant's voice was gentle. "That's understandable." "Is it?" Georgina paced the room. "He's your father. He should have protected you." Grant moved in front of her, stopping her restless movement. "But fear makes people do terrible things. It doesn't excuse what he did, but it might explain it." How are you so understanding about this? Because I know what it's like to be betrayed by someone you trust. Something dark flickered over Grant's face. The person who gave me these scars? He touched his left arm. It was my brother. Georgina's breath caught. Grant. He wanted the throne, thought silver poisoning would be slow enough that no one would suspect foul play. Grant's voice was flat. He nearly succeeded. I was dying. For weeks before my healers figured out what was wrong. What happened to him? Grant's jaw tightened. I exiled him, sent him to the Eastern Territories with nothing but his life. He looked away. Part of me wanted to execute him. The rest of me couldn't. He was still my brother. That must have been an impossible choice. It was the worst thing I've ever done, and the most merciful. Grant's hands clenched. He's alive somewhere out there, hating me probably. The raw pain in his voice made Georgina's chest ache. Do you regret it? Letting him live? Mercy is a luxury kings can't always afford, but I couldn't become the monster he thought I was. The point is, I understand complicated family dynamics. I understand betrayal and forgiveness and everything in between. Grant took her hands. Whatever you decide about your father, I'll support you. But don't let this poison your relationship forever. Life's too short for that. How did you get so wise? She asked softly. When I learned the hard way that holding on to anger only hurts yourself. Grant pulled her into his arms, and Georgina went willingly. They stood like that for a long moment, wrapped around each other. Georgina breathed in his scent, let his presence calm the churning in her chest. Thank you, she murmured against his shoulder, for saving them. Always. Grant's lips brushed her temple. I'll always protect what's yours. The promise settled over her like a blanket, warm and safe and almost enough to make her forget. Because somewhere beyond these walls, Edmund's allies were watching, waiting. And one of them was closer than either of them realized, hidden behind a familiar face, biding their time. They knew she held secrets that could unravel everything, the poison formula, the alliance network, the location of ancient weapons that could shift the balance of power forever. She was a liability they couldn't afford to leave alive. And Grant, already weakened by silver once, before, was a king they needed off the throne. But in Grant's arms, with his heartbeat steady beneath her palm, Georgina let herself pretend, just for a moment, that they had time, even though they didn't. That night, Grant walked her to her chambers as he always did, but when they reached her door, he didn't immediately pull away. Georgina. His voice was rough. One hand came up to cup her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. I need to tell you something. What is it? I want you. The admission was raw, unguarded. Every time I leave you at this door, it gets harder to walk away. Heat flooded through her. Then don't. Grant kissed her then, slow and deep and full of hunger. His teeth grazed her lower lip, just enough to make her gasp, just enough to promise what could come later. Soon, he said against her mouth. I promise. But let me court you first. Let me show you, and everyone else, that you're not a prize I took. You're someone I chose. Someone who chose me back. Georgina wanted to damn all the consequences, but the fierce protectiveness in his eyes stopped her. He wasn't just thinking about them. He was thinking about what came after, the alliance they were building, the peace that hung in the balance. He was thinking about keeping her safe in every way that mattered. All right, she said finally. Court me. But Grant, don't make me wait too long. His smile was pure wolf. I won't. Grant proved to be a man of his word. He courted Georgina with a patience that both frustrated and enchanted her. He brought her books from the fortress library, histories of both their people, poetry she'd mentioned loving as a child. He took her riding through the mountain passes, showing her vistas that stole her breath. He sat with her during strategy meetings, treating her insights with the same respect he gave his most trusted advisors. And every night, he kissed her goodnight at her chamber door and walked away, even though the hunger in his eyes said he wanted to stay. It was maddening. It was wonderful. Georgina's dragon grew increasingly impatient. "Just claim him already," she urged. "Stop dancing around each other like frightened rabbits." "We're not rabbits," Georgina muttered, earning a strange look from the servant helping her dress. But her dragon had a point. The tension between her and Grant had grown so thick she could taste it. Every touch sparked like lightning. Every heated glance promised things that made her blood sing. Something had to give. That evening, Grant invited her to dinner in his private chambers, something they'd been doing regularly. But tonight felt different, charged with possibility. Georgina wore a new dress, deep green that brought out the gold in her eyes. She'd let her sister help with her hair, braiding it with ribbons the color of autumn leaves. "You look beautiful," her sister Nessa had said, her young face alight with matchmaking glee. "The Alpha King won't be able to keep his hands off you." We're not," Georgina had stammered. Nessa had just laughed. "You're terrible at lying." Now, standing outside Grant's chambers, Georgina's heart hammered against her ribs. She smoothed down her dress one final time, then knocked. "Come in," Grant's voice called. She entered to find the room transformed. Candles everywhere, casting warm light. A table set for two by the fire. And Grant, dressed simply in dark trousers and a white shirt. "You're stunning," he said quietly. "You take my breath away." Heat flushed Georgina's cheeks. "And you're still the prettiest wolf king I've ever met." Grant's smile was slow and devastating. He crossed to her, taking her hand and bringing it to his lips. "I plan on keeping that title." They settled at the table as servants brought course after course: roasted meats, fresh bread, vegetables glazed with honey, wine that tasted like summer. But Georgina barely noticed the food. She was too aware of Grant across from her. The way candlelight played across his features, the way his eyes kept finding hers. "I have something for you," Grant said when the servants had cleared the dishes and left them alone. He pulled out a small wooden box, setting it on the table between them. Georgina opened it carefully. Inside, nested in velvet, was a pendant, silver-shaped like a dragon in flight, its wings spread wide. The craftsmanship was exquisite, every scale individually carved. "Grant," she breathed, "it's beautiful. It reminded me of you." He took the pendant from the box, moving behind her. "Strong and fierce and free. May I?" Georgina nodded, lifting her hair. Grant's fingers were warm against her nape as he fastened the clasp. Then his lips brushed the sensitive part of her neck, and she shivered. "Thank you," she managed. "There's more." Grant's voice was rough. He moved to stand in front of her again. "I need to tell you something. Something I should have said days ago." Worry sat on Georgina's chest like a stone. "What is it?" "I've been researching, trying to understand what this is between us." Grant took her hands. "Why a wolf shifter and someone dragon bonded would feel this pull, this connection that shouldn't exist. Did you find answers?" "Yes." Grant's thumb traced circles on her palm. "There's a prophecy, an old one, from before the war between our peoples. It speaks of two bloodlines, wolf and dragon, that were once united, mates who were torn apart by conflict." Georgina's breath caught. "The first alpha and the first dragon rider?" You know the story? My grandmother used to tell it. She said they loved each other so much that when war forced them apart, their bond never truly broke. That it waited, dormant, for the right descendants to reunite. Georgina searched Grant's face. I think we're their descendants, the first in centuries who can complete what they started. Grant's expression was intense. I think we're meant to heal the divide between our people. That's a lot of pressure, Georgina said shakily. It is. Grant pulled her to her feet, into his arms. But it also explains why my wolf recognizes your dragon, why touching you feels like coming home. Then let's stop fighting it. Let's see where this goes. Together. The kiss that followed was different from the others. Slower. Deeper. Grant's hands roamed her back, learning her curves through the fabric of her dress. Georgina's fingers tangled in his hair, holding him close. The pendant he'd given her warmed against her skin, catching fire from the heat building between them. When they broke apart, Grant's eyes had gone silver, his wolf rising to the surface. I want you, he said hoarsely. Gods, Georgina, I want you so much it's driving me mad. Then have me. She pulled him back to her mouth. I'm yours. I've been yours since that first night in the tower. Grant groaned, his control fracturing. Are you sure? Once we do this, once we complete the bond, there's no going back. I don't want to go back. Georgina bit his lower lip gently. I want to go forward. With you. That was all the permission Grant needed. He lifted her easily, carrying her to the bed. Then he covered her body with his, and the world narrowed to just them. Grant took his time. His mouth traced the curve of her neck, teeth grazing just enough to make her shiver. His hands learned every curve, every place that made her breath catch. He was patient, building heat between them until Georgina thought she might combust. Grant, she gasped, please. I want to remember every second of this. His voice was rough, wolf-edged. Every sound you make, every way you taste. His skin burned against hers, but the heat of him was intoxicating. When his teeth found her shoulder, not quite biting but promising he could, her dragon roared approval. Mark us, claim us, her dragon purred. Grant groaned like he'd heard her dragon's demand. He moved lower, his mouth blazing, a trail that had Georgina arching off the bed. When he finally rose above her, eyes blazing silver in the candlelight, Georgina pulled him down to her. Now, she breathed. Please. Grant kissed her, deep and claiming, as he finally joined them together. The mate bond snapped into place like a thunderclap. Georgina cried out, overwhelmed by the sudden rush of sensation. Not just physical pleasure, but everything. His emotions flooding into her, hers into him. She felt his wolf surge forward, fierce and possessive, felt it recognize her dragon with something like triumph. They moved together, finding a rhythm as old as time. Dragonfire met wolf hunger, and instead of destroying each other, they created something new, something powerful, something that would change everything. Afterward, they lay tangled together, both trembling with the aftershocks. Grant's hand rested on Georgina's stomach, his thumb tracing idle patterns. I can feel you, he said wonderingly. Your emotions, your presence, like you're inside my head. The mate bond. Georgina pressed her palm over his heart, feeling it beat in sync with hers. We're connected now. I love you. Grant kissed her temple. Georgina's throat tightened. Grant, you don't have to say it back. His arm tightened around her. I just needed you to know. Whatever happens, whatever comes next, I love you, completely. Tears pricked Georgina's eyes. I love you too. I didn't think I could, not this fast, but I do. I love you so much it scares me. Don't be scared. Grant rolled to face her, his expression fierce. We're in this together. Whatever comes, we face it together. Georgina wanted to believe him, wanted to sink into the warmth of his promise and let it chase away all her fears. But something nagged at the back of her mind. Careful, her dragon whispered. Something is coming. I can feel it. Georgina pushed the unease aside. Tonight was perfect. She wouldn't let worries ruin it. She kissed Grant again, long and slow, and let herself believe in happily ever after. Morning came too soon. Georgina woke wrapped in Grant's arms, sunlight streaming through the windows. For a moment she just lay there, memorizing the feel of him, the rise and fall of his chest, the way he held her even in sleep, protective and possessive. Then someone pounded on the door, shattering the peace. Grant was instantly awake, rolling out of bed and reaching for his sword in one fluid motion. What is it? My lord, a guard's voice, urgent and strained. We have a situation. The prisoner, Edmund, he's escaped. Ice flooded Georgina's veins. Grant's expression went deadly. How? Grant demanded, pulling on trousers. Unknown. The guards were found unconscious. No sign of forced entry, no indication of how he got out. Inside help, Georgina said quietly. Someone freed him. Grant's eyes met hers, grim understanding passing between them. Get dressed, quickly. Georgina's hands shook as she pulled on her dress from last night. Grant was already buckling on his sword belt. Stay close to me, he ordered, until we know who helped him. Another knock. This one softer. Brother, are you there? Grant froze. Then he opened the door to reveal a man Georgina didn't recognize. Tall, with Grant's same dark hair but lighter eyes. He looked haggard, like he'd been riding hard. Finian? Grant's voice was wary. What are you doing here? I came as soon as I got word about Edmund's escape. Finian's gaze swept past Grant to Georgina. I thought you'd want my help tracking him. How did you know he'd escaped? I just found out myself. I have sources. Finian smiled. You're not the only one with intelligence networks, brother. Georgina stepped closer to Grant instinctively. Grant noticed. His arm came around her shoulders. This is Georgina, my mate. Finian's expression flickered. Surprise? Then something darker? Your mate? A dragon bonded? He laughed, but it sounded forced. Well, that's unexpected. Finian, Grant's voice held warning. If you have something to say, no, congratulations. Finian's smile widened. Though I hope you know what you're doing. Mating with the enemy could be seen as problematic. She's not the enemy, Grant said simply. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have an escaped prisoner to find. He moved to shut the door, but Finian's hand shot out, stopping him. Grant, there's something you should know. About Edmund. About who helped him escape. Grant went very still. What do you know? Let me come in. This isn't a conversation for hallways. Finian's gaze flicked to Georgina, then back to Grant. Concern crossed his face. It involves her. The people who freed Edmund. They're coming for her specifically. Tonight, if my information is correct. Grant's protective instincts flared. Through their bond, Georgina felt his wolf surge to attention. If you're lying, Grant started. I'm not. Finian raised both hands. I know, you don't trust me, but whatever else I am, I'm still your brother, and I'm telling you, she's in danger. Let me help. Grant hesitated, then stepped aside. Finian entered, his gaze sweeping the room, taking in the rumpled bed, the scattered clothes, the obvious intimacy of the space. So you've really claimed her, Finian said. Completed the bond and everything. That's none of your concern. Grant positioned himself between Finian and Georgina. What do you know about Edmund? Finian was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. I'm sorry, Grant. Truly. But you left me no choice. The words sent a chill racing down Georgina's spine. Grant. Too late. Finian moved fast, faster than should be possible even for a wolf shifter. He threw something at Grant, a vial that shattered on impact. Silver liquid splashed across Grant's chest, and he roared in pain, dropping to his knees. No! Georgina lunged forward, but Finian caught her arm in a bruising grip. Don't fight, he hissed in her ear. You'll only make it worse for him. Grant convulsed on the floor, silver poisoning racing through his system. His skin turned ashen, his breathing labored. Georgina's dragon surged forward, fire building in her palms. But Finian twisted her arm behind her back, forcing her to the ground. I wouldn't, he said pleasantly. The silver's in his bloodstream now. Any shock to his system, like dragon fire, could stop his heart. So unless you want to kill your mate, I suggest you behave. Tears of rage and terror streamed down Georgina's face. Why? Why would you do this? Because he finally gave me an opening. Finian's voice was cold. Grant the merciful, Grant the just, always too noble to be properly ruthless. But mating with a dragon bonded? The enemy? He laughed. Half the wolf nobility already think he's lost his mind. This makes removing him now the perfect window. You freed Edmund, Georgina realized. You're working with him. Brilliant and beautiful. I see why Grant likes you. Finian hauled her to her feet, keeping her arm twisted. Edmund and I have an arrangement. He gets what he wants. You, your dragon bond, the ancient weapons, and I get what I want, the throne. Grant will kill you for this. Grant will be too busy dying. Finian dragged her toward the door. The silver is the same poison that scarred him years ago. With the dose I just gave him, he has maybe an hour before his organs shut down. Georgina thrashed against his hold. No, please, come along quietly, or I'll give him more. Finian's grip tightened painfully. Your choice. Georgina went limp, letting him drag her, but her mind raced. An hour. Grant had an hour. She could fix this. She had to fix this. Finian pulled her into the hallway, where 2 guards waited, clearly his allies. They grabbed her arms, and Finian stepped back, dusting off his hands. Take her to Edmund, he ordered. Tell him his bride is ready. What about the alpha? One guard asked. Leave him. By the time anyone finds him, it'll be too late. Finian's smile was cruel. Such a tragedy. The Alpha King, brought down by the same poison yet again. Mercy repaid with death. Then he was gone, disappearing down the corridor. The guards dragged Georgina in the opposite direction. She didn't fight. Couldn't afford to, not with Grant dying in his chambers. But her dragon was already working, already reaching through the mate bond, sending warmth and healing into Grant's failing system. Hold on, she sent desperately. Please, Grant, I'm coming back for you. She felt his response, weak, but still there. Run. Save yourself. Then the guards shoved her through a doorway, and she lost the connection. Edmund waited in what had once been Grant's war room. He looked worse than Georgina remembered, thinner, with a wild gleam in his eyes. Prison had not been kind to him. There she is, he said, his smile vicious. My runaway bride. I've missed you. Georgina spat at his feet. I'd rather die than marry you. Oh, we're long past marriage, darling. Edmund circled her like a predator. Now I just need what you can give me, that perfect recall, that dragon bond connection. You're going to help me find the Ashwood cache, and then you'll kill me? At least be honest about it. I might let you live, if you cooperate. Edmund stopped in front of her. But first, we need to deal with your little mating problem. He gestured, and a robed figure stepped from the shadows, a mage based on the symbols stitched into his sleeves. This is Silas, Edmund said pleasantly. He's going to sever your mate bond. Painful, from what I understand, but necessary. Can't have you running back to your wolf king. Horror crashed over Georgina. Severing a mate bond was torture, a violation of the soul itself. Many who survived the process went mad from the loss. You can't, she whispered. Watch me. Edmund nodded to the mage. Silas began to chant, his hands weaving, patterns in the air. Georgina felt something hook into her chest, into the glowing thread that connected her to Grant. And then it started pulling. Pain exploded through her, like someone was tearing out her heart. She screamed, unable to stop herself. Through the agony, she felt Grant's wolf, felt him fighting the silver, trying to reach her. No, she sent frantically. Don't. You'll kill yourself. I can't lose you. His voice was anguished. You have to live, Georgina sobbed. Even if I don't. Promise me. Georgina. The bond stretched thinner. Silas's chanting grew louder. Georgina's dragon thrashed, fighting the magic, trying to sever them from their mate. But it was too strong, too relentless. Just when she thought she'd shatter completely, something changed. The bond, instead of breaking, began to burn. Golden light exploded from Georgina's chest. Dragon fire, pure and searing. It raced along the thread connecting her to Grant, wrapping around the mage's magic. And then suddenly, it ignited. Silas screamed, his spell backfiring. He staggered back, hands smoking. The bond snapped back into place, stronger than before. Through their connection, Georgina felt Grant's shock, felt his wolf surge forward, feeding strength into the bond. Together their powers intertwined, dragon and wolf, fire and frost. The room exploded with light. When Georgina's vision cleared, Silas was on the ground, unconscious. The guards were scattered, and Edmund was staring at her with utter shock. Impossible, he breathed. The bond shouldn't be able to— You don't understand what we are, Georgina said, her voice ringing with power, her dragon's voice overlaid with her own. We are the union of two bloodlines, the healing of an ancient wound, and you cannot break us. She reached for her dragon bond, letting fire build in her palms. Golden flames licked across her skin, beautiful and deadly. Edmund stumbled back. Kill her, he shouted to his guards. But before anyone could move, the door crashed open. Grant stood in the doorway. He looked like death, skin pale, silver burns angry on his chest, but his eyes blazed silver bright, his wolf fully present. Touch her, and I'll rip out your throats, he snarled. You're supposed to be dead, Edmund said, disbelief draining all color from his face. Funny thing about mate bonds. Grant stepped into the room, moving with predatory grace despite the poison in his system. When one mate is in danger, the other can push through almost anything, even silver. Georgina felt the truth of it through their connection. Grant was holding on through sheer will, through the bond linking them. He was burning through his life force to save her, but he wouldn't last long. Grant, she said urgently, you need to rest. We end this together. He cut her off. His gaze never left Edmund. That was the promise, wasn't it? Despite everything, Georgina smiled. Together. They moved in sync, Grant shifting into his massive wolf form while Georgina let her dragon fire build. Two predators, perfectly balanced. Edmund's guards hesitated, clearly not wanting to face an alpha wolf and a dragon bonded working in tandem. "Stop them!" Edmund screamed. But it was too late. Grant lunged at the nearest guard, his jaws finding the man's throat. Georgina threw fire at another. They fought like they'd been doing it for years, covering each other's weaknesses, amplifying each other's strengths. In a matter of minutes, Edmund's guards were down. Edmund himself tried to run, tried to slip out the back entrance. Georgina's fire blocked his path. Grant's wolf form cut off his other escape route. "Please," Edmund whimpered, all his arrogance gone. "I can pay you. Give you anything." "You killed my brother," Georgina said coldly. "Killed Grant's people. Tried to start a war that would have slaughtered thousands. There's nothing you can offer that would make me spare you." "Grant," Edmund turned to the wolf. "You understand necessity. You've made hard choices. This was just politics." Grant shifted back to human form, not bothering with modesty. His expression was carved from ice. "You're right," he said quietly. "I do understand hard choices. I understand doing what's necessary to protect my people." Edmund's face lit with hope. "Then you'll let me, which is why you have to die." Grant moved faster than Edmund could react. One moment he was standing 5 feet away. The next, his hand was around Edmund's throat. "This is for every innocent life you took," Grant said. "Every child you poisoned. Every person you hurt in your quest for power." "Wait," Edmund choked out. Grant's grip tightened. "No more waiting. No more second chances." Georgina watched Edmund's life fade from his eyes, watched Grant end the threat that had haunted them both. When it was over, Grant let Edmund's body drop. He swayed, the silver finally overwhelming him. Georgina caught him before he fell. "I've got you," she murmured. "It's over." Georgina eased him to the ground, her hands already glowing with dragon fire. "Now hold still. Let me heal you." She pressed her palms to his chest, directly over the silver burns. The poison resisted immediately, cold and corrosive, trying to burrow deeper into his heart. Georgina gritted her teeth and pushed harder. Dragon fire poured from her palms, sinking into Grant's skin. She felt the moment it reached the silver in his bloodstream, felt it recoil like a living thing, spreading through his veins to escape her heat. Georgina chased it, sent fire racing through the mate bond, following every thread of poison through Grant's body, his heart, his lungs, the old scars on his arm where silver had nested for years, dormant but deadly. The cost hit her immediately. Her vision blurred. Her hands shook. Dragonfire wasn't meant to burn this hot, this deep. It was tearing through her own reserves, consuming her from the inside out. "Georgina, stop." Grant's voice was weak but alarmed. Through the bond, he felt what she was doing. "You're killing yourself." "I'm not losing you." Sweat dripped down her face. Her chest burned like she'd swallowed hot coals. She pushed deeper, found the silver clustered around his heart. The worst of it, the dose that would stop his pulse in a matter of minutes. Her fire wrapped around it, squeezing, burning, refusing to let go. Slowly, agonizingly, the silver began to dissolve. But Georgina's knees buckled. Her dragon's roar had turned to a whimper. She could feel herself unraveling, her life force trading itself for his, piece by piece. "Almost," she told herself. "Just a little more." Grant's hand closed over hers. His wolf surged through the bond, joining her in the fight, working together to freeze the poison while she burned it away. Finally, the silver shattered. Georgina collapsed forward onto Grant's chest, gasping. Her hands were still glowing, but dimly now, embers instead of flames. Everything hurt. Her bones felt hollow. Her dragon had gone silent, exhausted beyond speech, but Grant's heart beat steady and strong beneath her ear. His color had returned. His breathing came easy. The burns on his chest had faded to pink. When Georgina finally managed to lift her head, Grant was staring at her with wonder and horror. "You saved me," he said hoarsely. "You saved me first." Grant pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. "I love you. Gods, Georgina, I love you so much." "I love you too." She burrowed into his warmth. "But we're not done yet. Finian—" "I know." Grant's voice hardened. "He's next." They found Finian trying to flee the fortress. Grant's loyal guards had already apprehended him, alerted by the commotion in the war room. He stood in the courtyard, hands bound, defiance on his face. "Brother," he said as Grant approached, "come to gloat?" "I've come to understand." Grant stopped a few feet away. Georgina stood at his side, her hand in his. "Why? Why betray me again? I showed you mercy once." "Your mercy was an insult," Finian spat. "Exile? Like I was some disobedient child to be sent away? You should have killed me then. At least that would have been honest." "So you came back to finish what you started." Grant's voice was dangerously soft. "Poisoned me. Tried to have my mate killed. Allied with the man who slaughtered innocents. I did what I had to do." Finian struggled against his bonds. "The throne should have been mine. I was born first." "By 6 minutes." Grant's jaw tightened. "And father chose me anyway. So you've spent your whole life trying to kill me for it." "I tried to take what was mine by right." Finian's eyes blazed. "And I'd do it again. As long as you draw breath, I'll find a way." "I know." Grant's voice went hollow. "That's why I can't show you mercy this time." The words hung in the air. Final. "You nearly killed her." Grant's hand tightened on Georgina's. "My mate. You would have had her bond severed, knowing it would destroy her mind, and you would have let me die choking on silver while she screamed." His voice cracked. "I forgave you once, Finian. I won't make that mistake again." Finian went still, hatred settling in his eyes. "So much for brothers, right? You stopped being my brother the moment you chose ambition over blood. I learned something today. Mercy to the cruel is cruelty to the innocent. I won't sacrifice the people I'm sworn to protect just because we share a father." He turned to his guards. "Take him to the executioner's block. It will be quick. That's the only kindness he'll get from me. Goodbye, Finian." The guards dragged him away, his protests echoing through the courtyard until they faded to nothing. Grant stood frozen, staring at the spot where his brother had been. His hand trembled in Georgina's. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I know that wasn't easy." "It was necessary." Grant's voice was hollow. He turned to face her, and she saw the grief in his eyes. "He gave me no choice. I couldn't—" "I know." Georgina pulled him into her arms. "You did what you had to do, what a good king does. A good king doesn't execute his brother. A good king protects his people, even when it costs him everything." She held him tighter. "Even when it breaks his heart." Grant buried his face in her shoulder, and Georgina felt the shudder that went through him. They stood like that for a long moment, Grant leaning into her strength while his world quietly shattered. Around them, his people began to gather, not to cheer, but to witness, to see their alpha grieve, to understand the weight of the crown he carried. And slowly, with quiet respect, they bowed their heads. 3 months later, Georgina stood on a balcony overlooking both territories, wolf and dragon lands stretching in opposite directions. Behind her, preparations were underway for a summit. the first peace talks between their peoples in 3 centuries. It had been Grant's idea, supported enthusiastically by Georgina. If their mate bond could unite them, perhaps it could start to heal the ancient divide. Nervous? Grant's arms came around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. Yes, Georgina admitted. What if they reject the peace? What if we've built all this for nothing? Then we try again. Grant pressed a kiss to her temple. We keep trying until it works. We have time. Do we? Georgina turned in his arms. Grant, there's something I need to tell you. Worry flickered across his face. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. She took his hand, pressing it to her still flat stomach. But in about 7 months, things are going to get very interesting. Grant went absolutely still. Then his eyes widened. You're pregnant. Yes. Georgina bit her lip. I know the timing isn't ideal, with the summit and everything. Grant kissed her, stealing the words from her mouth. When he pulled back, his eyes were glistening. The timing is perfect, he said fiercely. Our child, the firstborn of both bloodlines in centuries. They're going to be chaos, Georgina warned. Dragon and wolf, the poor thing won't know which form to take first. They'll be perfect. Grant's hand splayed protectively over her stomach. Just like their mother. They stood like that as the sun set, painting both their territories in gold and crimson. 2 lands that had been enemies now connected by the bond between a wolf king and a dragon-bonded woman. As she felt Grant's warmth at her back and the new life growing inside her, Georgina let herself hope. Hope that their child would grow up in a world without the ancient divide. Hope that the prophecy was right, that they were meant to bridge the gap between their peoples. A year later, Georgina watched her daughter sleep, marveling at the tiny perfection of her. Arya had Grant's dark hair and Georgina's golden eyes, and when she dreamed, both. Tiny wolf ears and dragon scales flickered across her skin, her body unable to decide which heritage to claim first. She's going to be a handful, Grant said from the doorway, his voice full of wonder. She already is. Georgina smiled as Arya's small hand fisted in the blanket. She shifted 3 times just today. The nursemaids are terrified. They shouldn't be. Grant moved to stand beside her, his arm coming around her shoulders. She's perfect. She is, Georgina agreed. Then she looked up at her mate. The summit delegates are arriving tomorrow. Are you ready? As ready as I'll ever be. Grant's jaw tightened. Some of them still oppose the alliance. Let them oppose. We have proof that it works. Georgina gestured to their sleeping daughter. Wolf and dragon, together. The first of what will hopefully be many. Already other matings had occurred, tentative at first, then with growing frequency. Young wolves and dragon-bonded finding each other, drawn by the same ancient pull that had connected Grant and Georgina. The bloodlines were reuniting, slowly, carefully, but undeniably. We're changing the world, Grant said quietly, one mating at a time. We're healing it, Georgina corrected, fixing what war broke. It hadn't been easy. The past year had been full of political battles, assassination attempts from hardliners on both sides, and the constant struggle to prove their alliance could work. But they'd survived. Together. And they'd created something beautiful in the process. I have something for you, Grant said suddenly. He pulled out a small box, similar to the one that had held the dragon pendant he'd given her. Grant, you don't need to keep making me things. Open it. Inside, nestled in velvet, was a ring. Gold carved to look like a dragon, and wolf intertwined, their bodies forming a circle with no beginning or end. In the old days, before the war, Mates would exchange rings, Grant explained, a symbol of their eternal bond. I had this made for you, for us. Tears pricked Georgina's eyes. It's beautiful. Grant took the ring, sliding it onto her finger. You're my mate, my love, my queen, and I want everyone to see it. Grant kissed her ringed hand. Do you like it? I love it. Georgina pulled him down for a proper kiss. Almost as much as I love you. Only almost? Grant's eyes danced with amusement. Well, you did wake me up 3 times last night with your snoring. I don't snore. You absolutely snore. My dragon complains about it constantly. I do not, her dragon shot back. It sounds like a wolf purring. I think it's charming. Grant pulled her close, and they stood together watching their daughter sleep. Outside, the sun set over lands that were slowly learning to be one kingdom instead of 2. And as Arya stirred in her sleep, tiny scales rippling across her skin before fading back to smoothness, Georgina smiled. Their daughter would grow up in a world where wolf and dragon weren't enemies, where she could be both without having to choose. Come to bed, Grant murmured against her hair. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. They left Arya sleeping peacefully, the living proof that love could conquer ancient hatreds. And as Grant pulled Georgina into their chambers, as they came together in fire and frost and perfect understanding, both of them felt the mate bond sing. This was their legacy, not just their daughter, but the peace they'd begun, the healing they'd started. It had all started with a single moment in a tower room, a wolf king who'd caught his enemy's bride half-dressed and planning her escape, unable to look away, with a bond that refused to break, even when people tried to sever it. And as Georgina's dragonfire met Grant's wolf hunger once again, she knew love was the most powerful magic of all. Where are you listening from? I read every comment, and if you'd like to support me, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps more people discover these tales of love and magic.